In the forgotten lands of ancient America, buried deep within red canyons and surrounded by rivers that glowed faintly under the moon, the last Dragon King stirred. His scales shimmered like molten fire, his breath hot enough to set forests ablaze. For centuries, the earth had kept him in slumber, but now the trembling of the land and the cries of the wind signaled his return. Tribes scattered across valleys and mountains felt the shift in nature. Elders, who once told tales of his power to frighten children, now feared their own stories were coming true. The prophecy had warned, when the Dragon King awakens, the world shall burn before it is made free. The once-forgotten legend breathed life again, and humanity braced for a fate that balanced between destruction and the possibility of liberation unlike any they had ever known. Elders and seers gathered around ancient circles of stone, lit by torches that danced against the night. They whispered in trembling voices of the prophecy that had been etched into sacred stones: the one who holds the sword of eternal flame shall decide the fate of dragon and man alike. This sword, said to be forged in dragon fire, could never be wielded by a heart unworthy. Across the land, tribes began searching for the chosen one, but fear clouded their hearts, for the prophecy also spoke of ruin. Some believed the Dragon King's return signaled the end of humanity, while others saw it as a chance for unity and freedom. Whispers spread across rivers and forests, carried by the wind itself, that destiny had already chosen. Somewhere among them, a warrior would rise. Yet, the burden of such power could either heal the land or shatter it forever. Deep in caverns beneath the Appalachian peaks, the Shadow Order stirred. Their chants, ancient and dark, echoed through tunnels lined with bones. These sorcerers, banished centuries ago, had never abandoned their thirst for dominion. With blackened hands, they summoned creatures of smoke and ash, dragon-shaped abominations that breathed poison instead of flame. At their head stood Malakar, a sorcerer cloaked in robes woven with shadow. His eyes burned with a hunger for power unmatched, and he declared himself the rightful master of dragons. His plan was to shackle the Dragon King, drain his eternal fire, and bend him into slavery. Once chained, the king would burn nations at Malakar's command. The Shadow Order spread across valleys, corrupting rivers and forests, turning fertile lands into wastelands of decay. The balance between man and dragon had never been so fragile, and the hour of war crept closer with every breath. Kale was a humble warrior, known more for his loyalty than for his skill. His life changed when he stumbled upon a river glowing like molten fire, its heat rising into the night. Beneath its surface lay the sword of eternal flame, its blade pulsing with a heartbeat of its own. As Kale grasped the hilt, fire scorched his arm, leaving a mark that burned into his flesh. Pain turned to vision, and in the flames he saw the Dragon King, vast, ancient, and bound to his destiny. The bond was forged in that moment. Yet, when Kale returned to his people, fear met him instead of praise. The mark upon his arm was seen as a curse, a sign that he would bring doom. Kale swore an oath to prove them wrong, but deep within, he wondered if the prophecy of ruin was true after all. The Shadow Order struck swiftly. Their beasts of smoke and poison swept through valleys, consuming villages in a tide of death. Warriors clad in bronze raised their shields, clashing with iron swords against enemies that seemed unkillable. The earth trembled as armies met, fire against shadow, steel against sorcery. Then, the Dragon King descended. His wings spread wide enough to block out the sun, his roar shaking mountains, his flames scorching the dark creatures back into dust. Upon his back rode Kale, the chosen, wielding the sword of eternal flame with a light so fierce it blinded both friend and foe. The battle raged across rivers and mountains, staining the land with blood and ash. Every strike of sword and claw reminded the tribes that this was no ordinary war, it was the beginning of a reckoning, and only the strongest would endure what was yet to come. In the midst of chaos, betrayal bloomed. Kale's closest ally, a warrior named Doran, had long envied his bond with the Dragon King. Tempted by whispers of power, Doran stole the sword of flame in the dead of night. His plan was to prove himself worthy and take Kale's place as the chosen one. But the sword, alive with fire, rejected his grasp. Flames consumed him, leaving his body charred and lifeless. Yet his betrayal came at a price. In the moment the sword was taken, the Dragon King weakened, his fire dimmed, and his wings faltered. The Shadow Order seized this chance, casting chains of black iron infused with curses, binding the mighty dragon in torment. With the king shackled and Kale stripped of his weapon, darkness spread unchecked. The tribes trembled, wondering if their last hope had been lost forever. Kale's spirit burned brighter than his fear. With the sword reclaimed from Doran's ashes, he led warriors across deserts and forests to the western cliffs where the Shadow Order had built their fortress. The land itself wept under Malakar's corruption, rivers ran black, skies were filled with storms, and forests turned to dust. The final war began as tribes united, charging against an army of shadows. Kale, flames dancing from his blade, cut through foes, while the Dragon King broke his chains, wings igniting with unquenchable fire. Above the battlefield, the king faced Malakar's shadow dragon, a beast born of curses and death. Their clash split the skies with lightning and fire, echoing like thunder across the world. The fate of both man and dragon hung upon this war, where every strike carried the weight of eternity. The shadow dragon fell, shattered by the fire of the king and the strike of Kale's blade. Yet victory came at a heavy price. The Dragon King, grievously wounded, faltered in the sky. His wings burned with glory one last time as he soared above the battlefield, releasing a final roar that tore the chains of darkness forever. Flames swept across the land, not in destruction, but in cleansing light, purging the corruption of the Shadow Order. Kale fell to his knees, sword still blazing, as silence followed the storm. The Dragon King descended no more, his spirit rose into the heavens, leaving behind freedom and unity. The tribes wept, then rejoiced, for their world was free. Kale, marked by fire and burdened by legacy, became guardian of the Dragon King's story, a tale destined to echo across generations as the legend of flame and freedom.